Hi, very happy to have you on stage. So you came from Copenhagen and you came from Lausanne. Vevey, sorry. So in this masterclass, the idea is to have, in the first step, a landscape of Nestlé, what you do in digital, how you manage your team, to have a global vision, of what you do for the past months in Switzerland. And then we'll have a very interesting presentation around co-creation at LEGO. Please.
So can I stand up? Yes. Okay, great. First off, I'm relieved that my 7-year-old son cannot tweet, because if he could, he would probably say, "Dad, get off the phone, get Lego on the stage immediately." So, and I'm serious. Okay, let's see. All right, the green, okay. Okay. Three messages I wanted to get across quickly to preface our conversation. Number one, fundamentals still matter in digital. Number two, message quality is more important than ever in the digital and social context. And then number three, don't underestimate digital as an operating principle. And that point will be clear in just a moment. Now, first, a little bit about Nestlé, world's leading nutrition, health, and wellness company. We have a lot of brands. I won't mention them all. I have a few of them listed. There's a few more French brands that aren't there, such as Vitel. But to put things in perspective, we sell about 1.2 billion products a day. In India, for example, 2.4 billion cups of Nescafe a year. So a lot of volume. We have about 320,000 proud employees globally. And we're committed to a concept known as creating shared value, which basically is the belief that long-term shareholder value equals creating value for society. Very, very important foundation. In terms of about my role, like many of you who are doing digital, this pretty much sums up the world I live in. I've been in our global headquarters for about 1.5 years, and keeping up with digital is pretty much as you see it. If you think about what's kind of unusual about my role is, if you think about before my role came about, you had kind of two divisions between corporate communications and consumer communications. I actually report to both sides, and I think this is becoming very, very common for digital leaders, where we're starting to soften silos in organizations. And I would encourage those of you that are thinking about your digital design to maintain a flexibility about the overlapping nature of digital. Now, like many of you, I struggle daily with what I characterize as digital dualisms. Those of us that are leading in this space, there are no absolutes. We often have to deal with tension points. And a few of them that I deal with at Nestlé, local versus global, very, very complicated in a social media world where a crisis or brand news in a local region suddenly becomes news to everybody, especially in a world of Google search. Stimulation versus integration. We often think about, do we integrate digital into the whole brand building effort, or do we need a stimulus? I would say I'm kind of a classic stimulus, where coming in to really push the digital agenda, but we know over time this gets integrated into the core operations. Gatekeeper versus enabler. I think those of us leading digital are often thinking about, we obviously have rules, guidelines that we need to enforce, brand building principles, but at the same time we want to enable the organization to really unleash its full potential. And then obviously leadership versus management. Now, number one, fundamentals still matter. The one thing that I think has really helped us as Nestlé is that we haven't put digital in a far-off silo. We've always been very, very true to our brand building fundamentals. We have something known as brand building the Nestlé way, and it's almost a pre-digital concept that if you really internalize it, it helps to take digital to new levels. So we have these different rooms in our brand building house, such as inspire with brand vision and essence, delight with product experience. But you see a few of them where we just know that digital takes it to a new level, creating engaging brand experiences. What could be more engaging than the things that we're doing on Facebook or with next generation customer service or in online communities. Know your consumers deeply. We know, those of us who are passionate about digital know there is rich data and insight in the conversation, in consumer intent modeling, and the way we follow consumer behavior online. But the key point I want to suggest to you, because I know many of you are looking to build your digital organizations, sell management, even on the agency side, don't stray too far away from the fundamentals. They actually help in many, many more ways than you possibly could imagine. And it's worked at Nestle. Now, from this kind of core brand building framework, we focus on 3 key pillars. They sound very simple, but they've been very important to keeping us grounded and focused on what matters: listening, engaging, and inspiring and transforming. I talked a moment about the listening piece. The engaging one is the area that I think CPG and FMCG companies struggle the most. We historically have been in a mass advertising model. Now we have to figure out how to develop meaningful, trusted, authentic relationships with consumers, and that takes work. That takes a lot of iteration. And then inspiring and transforming is really about how the better, faster, smarter principles of the web bring new opportunity to the enterprise faster, changing innovation models. Now, number 2, message quality matters. And I think we lose sight of this all the time in the digital space. We have put an enormous amount of focus on getting the core creative ideas right, recognizing that if we hit the sweet spot, they will work irrespective of platforms. And we see this constantly where, and it's not just to say everything's about the TV ad that amplifies, but the core creative idea can take you to many, many places, and we've tried to stay disciplined to this. What you're looking at is a grid that we call ROBI, Return on Brand Building Investment, and we know from many, many years of experience that there's a clear correlation between message quality and ROI. We know that from our ad copy testing and the like. What I think is happening now is where I think the curves have been intensified in the world of digital, where the message quality that falls short of expectation is being severely punished by consumers. We call that spurn media, not earned media, but spurn media. And on the positive side, you know, the great creative is really getting further amplified. You're actually getting more credit for the great creative idea in a world where sharing is friction-free. And we believe that is a really big brand building opportunity. So think about 3 kind of things that we have tried to really stay close to. Number 1, minimize avoidance and rejection. So we got to move away from this world where we're slapping consumers in the face with interruptive, annoying advertising. Maximize impact, sociability, and sharing. So taking that great creative and thinking about how do we really amplify it in meaningful ways. And this takes work, this takes operations. We've got about 600 Facebook pages, and there's a lot of test and learn going on in terms of how to get that proposition right. And then, of course, do it consistently at scale if you really want to have a meaningful business impact. And this also is both a challenge and an opportunity. Now, a couple examples that kind of bring this to life. Number 1, we have a brand in the U.S., Skinny Cow, which is kind of a low-calorie, ice cream brand that I think has really taken digital to new heights. They've really nailed their brand essence, their brand voice. The Skinny, the cow, is the brand character, is the sassy girlfriend. And if you look at what's going on in Twitter or on Facebook, the brand is highly desirable. And it's played out in terms of advocacy, increase in earned media, and the like. One thing the brand has done extremely well is there are core operations behind getting this right. There are do's and there are don'ts. There are standards. And we see a lot of, reckless might be too extreme a word, but a lot of brands are going far off their brand essence in their online conversations. Here's a brand that's been very, very disciplined on its core foundations, and it's being rewarded severely. Now, how do we know that? We know that because, like a lot of you, we're putting a lot of discipline on measuring paid, owned, and earned media. And what's interesting when you look at the data from the Skinny Cow brand, upwards of a third of the media impressions are coming from non-paid sources. And we believe that those percentages are likely to go up even more. So owned media might be the post on the Facebook page that the brand puts out there to a high number of followers that show up in the news feeds or get rewarded by the EdgeRank algorithm. And the earned is obviously in the sharing area. But, you know, we know that with the right level of discipline, the opportunity to intensify media spread goes up significantly. Another example is, let's kind of take it close to home to France. Our Contracts brand, I think, has done an exceptional job of thinking about how to really amplify the big idea. The big idea is slimming can be fun. And many of you may be very familiar with, I think, what was one of the most successful YouTube videos last year, certainly in France, but way beyond France, where it was a long-form spot that I think the brand did an exceptional job fanning the flames of sharing, virality, highly integrated. There was TV, but TV was just a piece of the mix. What I thought I'd do is they just a few days ago put out their most recent spot, which is a follow-up, and let's run the reel, and then I'll say a few words. Now, too early to tell, but we're very happy with the numbers so far, and it hasn't aired on TV yet. And again, that's partly the point, where we're trying to, think about how do we amplify earned media on a great creative concept. And my colleagues are here from Nestle France. Congrats, it's one of my favorite campaigns. Another good example, I think, listen, we're all working on apps. I think they're really, really hard. And they have to have a compelling service proposition. My favorite one, and I'm not just pandering to the local region, is the Nestle dessert one here in France, where I think the reason why it's so sticky and has upwards of 10% of all French iPhone users is that it really fulfills a compelling unmet need. High use of video, instruction, great consumer understanding around the holiday occasion, dessert making experience and the like. And I think it's really important to get very, very deep into what those needs are before you put a lot of money and investment into these apps. Now let me say a word about digital's operating principle. We have really thought hard about what does it take to build a digital culture. Is it a trip to Silicon Valley? Is it bringing an inspirational speaker to Vevey? let me kind of run a reel on what we have tried to do. And it's a work in progress, but we're really pleased with the results so far.
Welcome to the Digital Acceleration Team in Vevey. My name is Hannelore Grams and I'm the Program Manager. We are here to support brands, SBUs, markets and zone initiatives to help them to achieve and to accelerate their digital roadmaps. While we're doing this, we're working around over 3 core disciplines. Those are listening, engaging, inspiring and transforming. Our first team has been chosen based on digital background and appetite and was made of brand and digital managers and digital corporate communication people. Each team is staying in Vevey for 8 months. During this stay, they experience hands-on brand community management, they are involved in strategic digital and social projects, and they run through an intense training program around our 3 core disciplines. We hope to see you soon here. Thank you very much.
We just finished our first class of 12 DAT members from across the globe, intensive 8 months, and it was really a transformative experience, especially for me, because you're going into these problems that are largely unanswered. No one's cracked the code on scalable community management. We're all still struggling with effective real-time 24/7 listening. We're trying to figure out how to flatten silos in organizations, create more of an open culture, and it's been a really interesting experience. And we just started another class that's going on a different type of journey. But don't be afraid to test new organizational models. That too, in addition to getting the brand fundamentals right, is really important to getting to your desired digital and marketing destination. And we're trying a lot of things. I mean, in addition to, we're doing crowdsourcing like many of you. This is something that's been going really well with our Nescafe Dolce Gusto brand, with our Euro Design Contest. We'll hear a lot more from Lego, not even close to that, but a good step for Nestle. We're also thinking about things like, how, in the spirit of the DAT, how do you take the things that we love outside and apply it internally? Can we build a YouTube for Nestle employees to drive how-to? How do we scale teaching and learning? I'm not sure what the answer is, but it's really important to test these things. And when you're in a radically decentralized network like Nestle, the sharing is a really important principle, in our view, to drive meaningful competitive advantage. So 3 things. Fundamentals still matter. The messaging is more important than ever. And don't underestimate digital as an operating principle. Thanks.
Should I start? Oh, thank you. I have my presentation ready. I'm Peter. I'm also on Twitter @VirtualPeter, if anybody's tweeting. So which one starts the presentation now? Okay, I can tell you a bit about what I'm going to talk about. The things I'm going to talk about is my journey through the last 3 years with my work at the Lego Group. Basically, I was a Lego fan since I was a kid, and you can see a bit of what I've done before, and of course a picture of me and my sister, and of course some of my Lego. But the thing I'm going to talk about is my journey into understanding what Lego community, Lego social media objects are, and the things that we actually did with it. And of course, I'll sum it up with some key learnings for you guys at the end from my journey. So the first lesson I got in Lego Passion, which is kind of the theme of my presentation, was actually not just my first lesson, it was also a French lesson in Lego Passion. Because the thing that happened was when I started at Lego, we got a letter from a French Facebook community. It's these guys here. You can see what it's called. They wrote a nice letter. I'm not going to read it out loud here, but they basically said, "Dear Lego, we're this French Facebook community. You've caused us all the pain through all these years of stepping on the bricks, and we demand an apology." And by the way, they were at that time 347,000 people. So I thought this was a golden opportunity for me as a marketeer to show my mojo in social and creative media and create a movie that would go viral, and I will be kind of the next new thing, you know. So this is actually what we did. We created a solution for their problem and showed, including a very handsome young gentleman here on the right, showing how it's done, right? So I was very full of myself. I got home, I sat and opened a bottle of champagne. I could see our social mention go way up. Things were going viral, everything was going perfect. But there was only one problem. It was actually not me going viral. It was a fan video that came out at the same time, and this is the thing you'll see running in the background. I got about 50 to 60,000 views in a couple of weeks. And this guy, he got more than 2.2 million, including mentioned in Wired, and he got in regular newspapers as well. All with some rubber bands, some Lego bricks, a fill tip pen, and some circuit boards. So this is quite amazing. And this really got me into thinking, what's all this passion about? And of course, you know, there's the thing that everybody talks about, technology commoditization and so on. And that's, of course, something we all know. Oops. See if we can go back here. We'll try once more. And the first thing is technology makes it possible for people to create all kinds of crazy things and also share things and make your own TV channel, your own Twitter channel, and all that stuff. So I started to look into all the user-developed content around the Lego brand. And the thing you could see here is it's hundreds of thousands of videos and millions of pictures that are already out there. The problem was also it was all over the web, so we decided to do something about it. But first I started to look closer into what's this conversation all about. And I came to the notion of a campfire. So beside this thing of technology commoditization, we have the thing called the campfire. And basically, the thing about campfire is that's where communication started way back in history, when the cavemen sat and discussed where to hunt a mammoth. Of course, then we got Gutenberg's print in the 15th century. We got radio in the 1890s, television in the 1950s, and of course, finally, satellite communication. But what happened now? Of course, you know, it's the campfire once more. Communication has gone a full circle. So now we're back discussing around the campfire if we're not discussing the campfire, as you can see. So that means, of course, that peer-to-peer communication, and this is not something I need to prove to you guys who all know it, is a lot more valuable than corporate communication. So the thing that really puzzled me is what could we do with these campfires and this technology commoditization, and what does it do? It basically creates one thing. It creates amazing individuals and amplify what they do so they can do great things. This video you see behind me is the current robotics world record holder of solving a Rubik's Cube, and check out the speed. I don't know if anybody of you have done that fast, but I'll challenge you to a test because you can't. It is really fast. I think that's 5.5 seconds. Yeah, this is a couple of English guys who've done this with Lego Mindstorm's robotics and of course, an Android phone. So these passionate people, we'll just see if we can, there we go. These passionate people, they have this fire burning inside them that they simply, it's not something we've created, it's something that our product has enabled them to do. So they would do this no matter what. And you know, it's not only Lego fans, it's the Beebliebers, the petrol heads, you know, the watch enthusiasts, and every person out there that burned for something. And if you look into yourself, you probably have some kind of fire burning yourself. So I started looking into how does this influence company behavior, and what could we do about it? So the three things I came up to that I wanted to do was understand it, the first thing. The second thing, I would like to tap into this passion. And why not also amplify it as make the campfire even bigger and glowing brighter? So the first thing of course, yeah, just a thing. This is not a new thing to Lego. Lego has a long history of doing these things, but this is kind of my journey. So the first thing about understanding them was, you know, doing all the surveys, doing all the hard push-ups and the mental push-ups, but especially not only doing surveys and working in digital, it was also getting up from behind your desk and going out into reality and meeting these people. If you look to the far right of this slide, there's also a picture of the Lego CEO and Lego's owner meeting these crazy Lego enthusiasts and celebrating what they do. And that's something they do every year. And a couple of weeks back, I had the great pleasure of joining 350 Lego fans from 22 countries in a small town just outside of Billund, and a lot of the Lego executives were there talking, discussing, co-creating, and working with them. So that was the first thing, understanding. The second thing is, let's see here, it's tapping into. Now we come to our co-creation initiative. This is called Lego Kuzo. Kuzo means wish in Japanese, and it's developed with a Japanese company. That's why it has this name. So the idea behind Kuzo is if you're a passionate individual and are passionate about an idea, if you can find 10,000 other people that are just as passionate and support you, and you have a good idea, we'll look at it and review it for production. But you know, when things like this happen, things don't always go as you think. But interesting things happen. If you look at the ideas here, if you start at the upper left corner, there's something that looks like a cut-over white whale with an orange hat. That is a deep-sea exploration vessel called the Shinkai 6500. That was the first thing that actually got through this platform and got the number of votes and got into production. So if I've gathered all the smart Lego designers, and even if I included all of you and had a focus group with you guys, you would never have come up with the idea that we should create this one. The second thing was the thing you see in the bottom left corner, which is a satellite. And the final thing was a thing the fan pointed out that was actually hiding in plain sight. What if you take a blocky computer game and combine it with Lego bricks? Well, then you get Lego Minecraft. And that also came out of this platform. So interesting things happen, but you can't predict it. Third, this is where it gets really, really interesting for me. It's what if you amplify the bonfire, and how do you do that in social and digital media? Remember that the Lego fans, they had their own version of Lego Facebook back in '99 called Lugnet. So the thing we decided to do was co-create a website or a project, digital project with the fans that's called Rebrick. You can find it at rebrick.com. It's basically a social media amplification tool. It's not a marketing tool as such. You will not see banners, Lego messages, and so on, but it's all about amplifying the great things the fans do in social and digital media and trying to create a dynamic window that you can look through, and when you look through this window, you will see all things Lego, and hopefully you'll be very, very inspired, and also celebrate our fans with us. Because one of the words for this Rebrick project is actually that I'm a fan of the Lego fans, and that's what we are at the Lego Group. We're fans of our fans. So, what kind of obstacles and what kind of learnings did I go through to get here in my time at Lego? Because these things, they don't come for free, and it's not as self-evident as you think, especially if you have an old marketeer background like me. So the first thing, and I'll take an example for history here. It's the notion of perceptual blindness. Does anybody here have an idea of what that is? Good. I'll tell the story. When Columbus, he got in his big ships and sailed to the Caribbean and encountered the Indians there. He sailed around the islands and in these big, big, big ships with 3 masts and huge sails. And he didn't get any reaction from the Indians. It was first when he got in his smaller boat and he finally went ashore, he got to interact with the Indians. So this term actually means that because it's so far away from what the Indians were used to, and so far away from what they could actually understand at the time, they were blind by it. They couldn't see it. It's basically also what a lot of marketeers are when they enter the realm of fan passion. These guys are extremely passionate, but it doesn't turn up in this or that score, and you can't isolate it on your sales models, so you're actually blind. But as we all know, if a tree falls in the wood and nobody sees it, it still makes a sound, and that's true with the fans as well. So that's the first thing, the perceptual blindness. That was the thing to overcome. So the second thing that I think that you guys can learn from was the notion of dropping your tools. This is also not a Lego example, but it comes from organizational studies have shown that wilderness firefighters, when they're fighting fires in these big, big, big forests in the US, if the fires get out of control, they can't drop their tools and run away to a safe place because of 3 things. So they actually die because they can't drop their tools. So this is serious business. The reason why they don't drop the tools is, first of all, their notion of being a firefighter, their understanding of themselves is tied to, their hatchet, their axe, their chainsaw, that are big, heavy objects, but that's what makes them firefighters. They've even taken these tools and given them cool names of valiant and brave firefighters in the past. So you can't, throw your old friend in the fire and run away. And third, admitting that you've lost control and that you have to throw your stuff away and run It's also a big loss of control. Of course, in relation to your colleagues, but also that's something that hit yourself. And I would argue that a lot of companies are in the same situation here. They have these big fancy models developed over many, many, many years, but they're afraid to drop them because their understanding, or the understanding of the people using them as a marketeer, is tied to their understanding of themselves. Second of all, they've given them nice names like the 4 Ps of branding or the AIDA model and all these kind of things that we all know. So they've even given the social coding as well. And finally, go into your boss and say that the tools we're actually using that I bought are not working anymore. We should throw them away. That's something very, very few people are actually ready to do. So that was the thing. So what does it take? Well, the first thing, understand the people that create this fire, that create this wildfire that you're surrounded by. Just because you can't see them initially does not mean they're not there. Second, release control. It's really scary, but it's necessary. Simply just let go. And finally, you need to drop your tools and invent new ones that work in the reality you're in. So the final thing, I'm just going to see if I can jump back here.
In between battles, where Darth Vader could just chill and go down. I will have the penne alla arrabbiata.
I will just show you a video. And look, that Darth Vader even have problems dropping his tools.
Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? This is not a game of who the fuck are you. For I am Vader. Darth Vader. Lord Vader. I can kill you with a single thought. We'll still need a tray. No, I will not need a tray. I do not need a tray to kill you. I can kill you without a tray, with the power of the Force, which is strong within me. Even though I could kill you with a tray if I so wished. For I would hack at your neck with the thin bit until the blood flowed across the canteen floor. No, the food is hot. You'll need a tray to put the food on. Oh, I see the food is hot. I'm sorry, I did not realize. Oh, tray for the... Yes, I thought you were challenging me to the fight to the death. Fight to the death? This is canteen. I work here. Yes, but I am Vader. I am Lord Vader. Everyone challenges me to a fight to the death. Lord Darth Vader. I'm Darth Vader. Sir Lord Vader. Sir Lord Darth Vader. Lord Vader of Cheam. Sir Lord Baron von Vaderham. The Death Star. I run the Death Star. What's the Death Star? This is the Death Star. You're in the Death Star. I run this star. This is the star. This is a fucking star. I run it. I'm your boss. You're Mr. Stevens. No, but there must have been a Death Star canteen, yeah? There must have been a cafeteria
if you cut the sound. Oh, thank you. So even though you're Darth Vader, you have the problems with dropping your tools. You stand there with your lightsaber and you want to kill somebody. And he can't let go. And second of all, he don't get that he's actually in a canteen and nobody's wanting to fight with him to the death. So that's a couple of insights that I have from my journey through the last 3 years. And I'd be happy to discuss with you guys afterwards. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you very much for this inspiring keynote, boss. Inspiring keynote. I have a few questions for you. The first one concerning the management of your teams. Yeah. You have all those different countries and all those different brands to manage. How do you manage the time zone? Because you are located in Vevey. So how do you manage this challenge?
I don't sleep. No, it's challenging, and I do a lot of work with our AOA region, Asia, Africa, Oceania, and I'm up pretty early or late at night, and it works well. Frankly, in issues such as issues management, you get some benefits from that because while you're asleep, other people may be monitoring for more difficult, complicated issues, but it all works out.
Okay. The second question will be, the title of this conference this year is Global Brands versus Social Consumers, Connected Consumers, but it could have been mobile consumers. Yeah. So the question is how you go on mobile, how far are you in this strategy?
Well, you can take two different approaches from mobile. You can kind of stimulate the work by creating dedicated mobile capacity, and I think to some extent that's important, and I have a dedicated resource who's doing an exceptional job in this area. But I think there's another track on mobile, which is just how do you mobilize the mindset across the board? Everyone is moving to small screens. There's a higher premium on simplicity. It could have an impact on how you think about ad copy when you know that people are even looking at your TV ads through YouTube. And so I think there's a mindset change that needs to take place across the enterprise, but there clearly are very focused mobile initiatives, developing apps, for example, that require a stimulus, and we're approaching it on both fronts.
Okay. And the last question will be, can you sum up the Nestlé strategy in a tweet sentence?
In a tweet. Listening, engaging, and inspiring.
Thank you. So Peter, I have some questions also. You are very far in this co-creation process with the consumers. What the percentage of the products that you work?
What percentage of our products are co-created?
Yes.
I would say very, very few. You
Okay.
can count the number of, there's fan involvement or passionate people involvement in many things. It's used in our front-end innovation in different things. But if you look at the things like the Kuzo project, it's very few. It's like, I think we have the 4th coming out sometime next year. So it's very, very few. And remember also, it's sometimes you need to inspire the people, then they get inspired, and then inspire you back. So it's not, we can't put everything out and fire all our designers. They do a tremendous job and make some crazy and great projects. But the thing that's interesting, it's about treading on virgin soil and trying to do things that work. And remember, it's not only about asking people that you want to co-create with them. There's a whole wide range of supply chain, distribution issues that's very, very difficult. We have, thousands of different Lego elements. And if people can build with any kind of element, that creates a very, very difficult process to manage. So there's many unsung heroes in these kind of things, not just, the people creating the front end.
Okay, thank you. Very last question. As a very early fan of Lego, I was in Hamburg in Germany, and I crossed by a Lego shop. So do you plan to have one in Paris one day, or?
Well, a Lego shop?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not at liberty to say, but I've heard rumors.
Nice.
Okay.
That's tweetable.
Twitter like this. Okay, thank you very much, guys, to come from.
On les applaudit.